Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Director James Gunn gave us some observations about why he believes that the movie industry is dying. Now, in a recent interview he did with Rolling Stone magazine that was also presented by Variety magazine, James Gunn states that he believes that the film industry is dying because they shoot films without finished scripts, and also went on to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how it basically fell completely apart. Now, as a screenwriter, I have to agree with James Gunn on this talking point about making films without finished scripts killing the film industry, because the film industry is a business, and it's a business that's really based on screenplays and based on completed screenplays, because you really cannot go out here and make a complete film without a finished screenplay. However, ever since we got a lot of accountants and bean counters and tech nerds into the entertainment business, they basically have been running on emotion, greenlighting projects based on their feelings, and as they go out here and greenlight projects based on their feelings and their efforts to make big profits, what they have done is take people out of the whole production process, and that basically has led to many of these films not being of top quality, because when it comes down to films, the film starts with the screenplay, and the screenplay is the thing written by one person, and as it's written by one person or a group of people, what the screenplay is a blueprint for all of the people who greenlit that project. It's a blueprint that basically shows everybody how this film is going to be put together from fade in to fade out, from first frame to last frame, and basically gives everybody an insight on how to put this film together from first frame to last. So a screenplay, when it's completed, is essential for a film in order for it to be top quality, because in order for the film to be top quality, everybody has to be on the same page from fade in, and everybody has to be on that same page in order to ensure that we get a film of high quality. So when you have a film that basically is just still being written, there's no way to know how that film will end, and that can lead to serious issues as related to your production. Now, when it comes down to films, again, it's always best to have a completed screenplay, because a completed screenplay gives the executive who greenlights the project a sense of what the story is going to be like, and that giving that sense of what the story is going to be like, what that does is give you a sense of what category of film this is going to be and how to market it, and also gives you an insight to be able to talk to other businesses to talk about licensing this film for marketing and merchandising. So when you have a completed screenplay, this gives everybody a sense of, again, what this film is going to be about and your overall plan for the film. Moreover, it also gives you a sense, if you're an executive, of basically, again, greenlighting this project, about how much money to allocate for this film, because when you have a completed screenplay, you can basically go out and see, okay, we're doing this type of film, it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and with it costing X amount of dollars, we can allocate a budget to make sure that people like the screenwriter is the one who gets paid first, and again, they get 3 to 5% of the production budget. So if I go out here and have a completed screenplay, I can pay the screenwriter first, and I can also retain that individual to do rewrites if possible, or I can bring in my own screenwriters and they have a good sense of what the script is, so that we can go out here and do the revisions for the pink pages. And with us having that screenplay in place, you can also then bring in your people for the logistics to be able to film this entire project, because once you have that screenplay in place, what you can do is now start looking to make the whole schedule for making this film. You can go out here and start having your people scout locations, and as they scout locations, you can start setting up the logistics with the people if you have to do exterior shots on shooting about filming those exterior shots. And you can also then start working with the set designers and the stagehands towards putting together the sets for the principal photography of the film, and also start to make schedules for other things like VFX or green screen. These are all things that you can do when you have the screenplay locked in place. When you have the screenplay locked in place, then you can go out here and work out the logistics for putting together the filming schedule, and you can also start working on developing, casting the actors for the film. And also, as you're working out casting the actors, you can also then have a blueprint for these actors to know what their roles are and what's going to motivate them as related to their character. And that's really going to help, especially with your lead actor, who's going to be the main character, in letting them know what they want, what motivates their character for what they want, and more importantly, giving the person a reason to care, and also giving your actors a reason to care. When you have that completed screenplay in place, it basically gives all of the people on the team the confidence as related to working on the project. And as they have that confidence, they can go from, again, filming first frame to last, and knowing what their story is, what their characters' motivations are, what sets are in place, what direction that the story is going to go in. And the cinematographer also takes the script, and they have a sense of what type of shots they're going to need for different scenes, what type of lighting they're going to need. The lighting guy is going to need as related to lighting those scenes. And the set decorators, they have a sense of what the rooms and spaces are going to look like. And you also have the director, who again has the vision for the film. They have a clear vision for the film. That's where I think James Gunn has that understanding that, yeah, you need to have that script in place so that you can have a clear vision of your film from first frame to last. So I understand where he's coming from there, because when you have that script locked in, you can go out here and start filming this film without having to deal with all sorts of issues. But when a film is not have a script in place, that's when the film becomes one that's hard to put together, especially if the writer is working on the film from the beginning and is still trying to work out the end. That's where you're going to have problems with that film, because you don't have a good sense of where things are as related to especially your second act and the build to your third. I mean, if you have a story, a lot of times you'll have a good first act, but sometimes it'll get bogged down on the second act. I know this from writing scripts and writing books, that you can get bogged down in the second act. And if that starts to happen, what can happen is that your film can slow down, and instead of it flowing organically, what you have is a writer looking to rush to put this story together. And as they rush to put the story together, what happens is that the story doesn't come together evenly, and that's why you want to have a completed script from first frame to last, because a completed script, again, gives everybody an idea of where they are on the page, with the director and the executive producer and the studio executive. Everybody is on the same page as related to the production of this film and where its progress is going as related to that film. And it also gives people a sense of where everything is going financially, so that this film can stay in budget. And this is one of the reasons why Hollywood is having problems right now, is that you've got a lot of these tech nerds and bean counters. Again, they greenlight projects based on feelings and their idea of what will be popular at the box office. Unfortunately, that's not how the business works. No, the business of film basically is one where an executive read a script back in the day. They like what they read, and as they like what they read, they basically, again, look to see if this film could be viable based on a budget that they put together. Usually a budget was anywhere back in the 80s from $5 to maybe $10 million, and they would basically give a guy a $5 million budget, tell him, hey, go make this film. In the 90s, it was a $20 million budget. They'll say, hey, go make this film, and just basically leave that person alone. And that's not happening these days. No, what's happening these days is that the whole collaborative process of film that was used to be between the executive producer, the director, And sometimes the screenwriter and the actors has turned into a complete committee process, very similar to what's happened with book publishing right now. I mean, these days, everything is done by committee, and that's not how writing works. That's not how creative writing works. No, creative writing, filmmaking, again, this is a process that creative people come together on, and it's basically, again, a vision of someone. And again, you have to trust the vision, or you don't wind up making something of quality. That's what many people in today's Hollywood don't understand. Many of these tech nerds and these bean counters who are in accounting, they want to go out here and try to minimize risk, but the entertainment business has always been about risk. The entertainment movie business has always been about risk, and the whole way you go out here and mitigate risk is basically by making sure that you have a quality screenplay. That's how you mitigate your risk, because your film starts on the page before you take it to the camera. Your film starts with the script, and if your script isn't good, then you're not going to be able to put together a quality film. I mean, your production team needs that blueprint to see where things are going. They need to have that blueprint as related to things, and that's how you keep films in line with your budget, and you can go on to have a strong opening at the box office and go on to make a film that possibly has the opportunity to become a blockbuster. And I say possibility to become a blockbuster because filmmakers basically, their job is not to make a box office hit. Their job is to go out here and tell stories. That's what a filmmaker's job is to do. And the studio basically understands that risk. But sadly, we don't have many studio executives anymore who understand risk, because we've gotten an influx of people from the tech space and a lot of people from accounting in the executive offices, thanks to the Telecom Act of 1996. And because we've gotten this influx of people who don't understand the film business, what they're doing is thinking to try to, again, mitigate risk by going out here and making emotional reactions to things that were successful, and thinking that they can rush out multiple of the same project. That's what they're thinking they can do, and think they can do it by doing it the way they do it in the whole tech sector, where they basically, again, launch projects like these upgrades to these operating systems without them being finished. But in the entertainment business, that's the fastest way to fail, because if you don't have the story complete, there's no way for you to do things on the set like the pink pages. The pink pages basically are the revisions as related to the script. And again, these revisions are usually just minimal rewrites that basically are done because sometimes a director will see that a scene that he wants to film basically, can't be filmed a certain way, so he'll slightly rewrite the scene. Or an actor will come in and say, hey, I don't like this dialogue, this doesn't sound right. And after they go out here and rehearse that scene at a table read, they'll say, okay, that line ain't really sounding right. The guy ain't really saying what a normal person would say. So they will go back to the writer's room and rewrite that scene, because the actors are saying, hey, the scene ain't really sounding right. My character really ain't sounding like a person who would be talking like this, or this character's motivation, for this scene is a little off. These are the things that they would go out here and rewrite in the pink pages, but the overall story would be done. The overall story would be completed, but the scenes would be slightly rewritten. And again, slightly rewritten because, again, the screenplay that you have basically, again, as a blueprint is basically in a stage where it's basically a draft. And again, usually, and that's another thing James Gunn, I think, is talking about, is that a lot of this stuff is basically being greenlit in draft mode, and you don't want to be going nowhere on draft mode. No, I know this, again, from my experience. You do not want to be out here working with a draft. You want a completed, finished script. You want a finished script so that you can go out here and do light revisions here and there. You don't want to be in a place where you're going out here putting together a film and the guy is still writing scenes in the act, because that really bogs you down. It really destroys your flow. when you're out here flowing and again got things going, you don't want to be in a place where, oh, we've shot again the first act of this movie, now we're trying to shoot the second act of the movie, and as we're trying to shoot the second act of the movie, what's happening here is that this guy is still trying to figure out where things are going, and basically you're trying to shoot this film and you don't even know where you're going, because again, unfinished scripts basically mean you don't know where you're going. And how do you get to the ending if he's still writing the ending or she's writing the ending? That really, again, is not really a good place to be, because that's the kind of thing that takes your film over budget, and it takes your film completely over budget, because what happens is that your film, again, you were allocated money to film the entire movie, and then you get this guy who hasn't finished the story, and since he hasn't finished the story, you basically wind up filming things that basically are done. Then you have to refilm and reshoot the entire scenes, because they basically realize, oh, this first act that we shot, basically what happens is that part doesn't really fit in with these new scenes. So this is how you wind up spending twice as much money, and you wind up making a film that's really completely confused. So you really do need that finished script, because again, what happens with a movie, again, movies are something that are on tight budgets, because after you pay the screenwriter, then you have to go out and start having to do things like rent locations. You have to work out things with state places as related to exteriors, especially if you're doing location shoots in a place like New York City or any other area. And then you have to work out studio time as related to sets, or work out green screen time. And every time that you have a complete script revision, that's more money that you have to spend. So I understand where James Gunn is talking about, because this is killing the business, killing it creatively, because you have people who are not understanding about how to write a screenplay. They're not developing in their craft. You have the business dying because you have studios allocating budgets that are basically becoming bloated, like in the case of the recent Disney Snow White and the recent Captain America Brave New World, where those films were basically, they started with a $180 million budget, but then went over to $350 million because of constant reshoots, and you wind up losing productivity, because you could have had that money and made other smaller films, but you had to wind up making this big budget film that basically became bloated. And all of this is basically killing the film business, because you're not able to make the money at the box office. You're not able to recoup your costs. And it's all because people don't understand that a good film starts with a good screenplay and an executive understanding, if the script is good, I'm not going to touch it at all as related to things outside of minor revisions. I'm not going to go out here and change a script, because this is another thing that, again, a lot of studio executives do. When they have a script that's solid, what they do is they'll buy a screenplay from a guy like me, then start sending in one of their screenwriters to rewrite that film, not understanding the vision that creator had. And as they have them rewrite the complete script, they write it to meet the standards of Hollywood, and then the entire film falls completely apart, because they don't understand the vision that's being put in place. They don't have executives who, again, have faith in that vision, a director that has faith in that vision to basically create a consistent film. That's what leads to a lot of films, again, not really being good, and a lot of productions not being good. Now, James Gunn, as I see it, is really coming from his experiences at Marvel Studios, where things went well in the beginning, but basically he talks about how Marvel basically wound up falling apart because of their so-called output increase. Now, as Marvel Studios was doing well at the box office, Bob Iger decided to increase the number of productions, not ever thinking about the quality of the scripts, but just thought about the quantity of product, thinking that if he saturated the market with a lot of product, he would be able to go out here and make a lot of money at the box office and on merchandising. However, because he didn't understand that when you're doing film and television, you need to focus on quality, what happens is that he focused on quantity, and he made a lot of products, rushing stuff out with inexperienced screenwriters, like in the case of Jessica Gao and the She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law show, basically rushed out a lot of product without ever thinking about the foundations of that product, which is the script. I mean, One of the things I understand is that you have to focus on the quality of the scripts. You have to focus on making sure that that script is of the highest quality before you even think about even allocating any money. One of the things I understand as a publisher is this, that I don't even send anything out to print unless I think it is ready for production. And I always make sure that every book that I do, again, is on that level, that where it's going to be of quality. And sometimes I'll do things like this year, I didn't make an ISIS book because I said, hey, I don't have a story, and I'd rather not rush a story and then publish one that's of poor quality. So I understand where James Gunn is coming from, where he said, yeah, you're killing everything by making so much stuff, because you need to have quality screenplays. You need a good seasoned screenwriter, and to be someone in charge of writing your scripts. You need them in the television or streaming departments to be the showrunner for that show, to have that vision. You need somebody, again, who can do quality writing, and this is where people have a problem. They don't understand how important a good writer is, like myself, as related to the overall process. They don't understand that everything starts with the script. When you're doing film and television, you need to have a quality script, and you don't understand that a good writer, when they come in, they're already thinking about things like budget, and thinking about things like locations, and thinking about things like how much things are going to cost, and how the motivations of an actor's character. These are all things that I think about whenever I'm writing a novel, or wherever I'm writing a screenplay. I'm always thinking about the budget. I mean, whenever I do a fantasy story like The Temptation of John Haynes, I mean, I thought of that whole book like I had a movie in my mind, and I thought about it as related to making sure that the budget was very low, so that basically you're not, again, having to have a lot of exterior shots, and you're not having to have a lot of sound stages or a lot of green screen time. You really want to, again, think about how things are going to be put together as related to your budget, because sometimes if you're a rookie, you're going to start out with a small budget. This is what I would be thinking about when I would be writing a lot of novels or even screenplays like All About Marilyn. When I wrote All About Marilyn, I always thought about it as making sure that the budget was low, and making sure, again, there were only going to be scenes in certain places, so that we could go out here and maximize using sets, or maximize using exterior shots, or maximize things that were, again, as related to the story. Again, you really want to think about the cost as related to your project, because you only get one shot, and you only get one shot to make a first impression at making a good story. You really want to think about your budget, and again, that's why I don't really get too elaborate when I'm writing stories. I always, again, make sure that, yeah, we can do this, but it will be done in a way that you can, again, do the VFX on the cheap, and you can also maximize things as related to the sets, if you ever wanted to do that type of stuff. Or in animation, you're not using so much or as they call cells, not using too many cells, so that you can, again, be able to keep things under budget. These are things that the writer has to think about when they're writing the story, so that it's ingrained organically into the whole project. It's ingrained so that you can make sure that things stay very consistent, and you can tell a compelling story, and tell the compelling story in a way that basically keeps you in budget. And if you can keep things in budget, this can keep you working. This is what many in the entertainment business, who are in the business, don't understand. They're just throwing money on top of money on projects like Captain America: Brave New World, continuing to shoot and reshoot scenes like they did with Fantastic Four and Snow White, not understanding that if you had a completed screenplay, you wouldn't have to go out here and do extensive reshoots, because the script would be complete, the script would be written solidly, and again, you'd have seasoned readers and seasoned people looking over this material to make sure that it is compelling, and it can be very entertaining, and having everything put together in place before everything is basically done with the marketing and everything with the film. Again, the screenplay basically is what you want, is I say, akin to the blueprint to a house. You don't build a house without a blueprint, because you don't know where the main structures are going to go for the foundation. You don't know where the main load-bearing beams and load-bearing walls are going to be for the home if you don't have the blueprint. And that's why you need the blueprint from the architect so that you can construct the house, because with that architect vision, you can go out here and see how the house is going to be built and how the framework of the house is going to be. Is it going to be wood? Is it going to be steel? Is it going to be have steel with aluminum supports? Is it going to be wood with drywall, or is it going to be plaster? All of this needs to be worked out before anybody starts construction, and the same thing applies to film. You have to have everything worked out before you can go to production. That's where seasoned studio executives came out here and again would read a screenplay and again look at the scene and go, okay, he's got this scene set up where we can maximize this space for the maximum amount of shots. He's got this scene so that it's set up so that, you know, we can go out here and be able to film for the 21 days. If we have to film for 21 days, we can go out here and film all the scenes in a certain space in 5 days. We can shoot these scenes for another frame in another 5 days. We got the green screen for 2 days. We got this over here, and again, everything, if we have everything going right, we can flow and keep things on budget or under budget, and we can have the table reads to make sure that the dialogue is going right. And if the dialogue is going right, we can go out here and start filming. Again, it's a whole process to film, and when a seasoned filmmaker will sit there and tell you, okay, this is why we want a script. We don't want to sit there and rush out something where the guy is sitting in his room still trying to figure out where the scenes are supposed to go. The other screenwriters are trying to figure out where things are going to go, and meanwhile, the original screenwriter who sold you the script, they're nowhere to be found, because these guys didn't even think to hire them to be a consultant to sit down and tell them how the story works. No, they paid that guy off. He got his 3 to 5% and is on his way after 10% coming off his agent. Then you're sitting up there with your screenwriter trying to figure out how things are going. Again, you have to have that script in place. You have to have that script complete and done, because that script is the blueprint for everybody to know how that film is put together. And that's why the industry is dying, because again, it doesn't have those type of executives who understand how the business works. They don't have the architects to understand how films are structured and how they are formed. They don't have those executives in place that understand how to make these films and make sure that they go on under a certain budget and make sure that these films are engaging and exciting from first page to last. We really have an executive issue because, again, tech nerds and accountants don't understand how the business works, and that's why the film business is dying, because you don't have those people in place who understand how to make films and understand how to make films as related to the whole craft of filmmaking. Now, if you want to check out some of my stories that basically are like a movie in your mind, you can check out the books in the SJS Direct universe, such as the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella series, and my other books like the Thetas, A Recipe for Success, and Eternal Night. And again, these stories are like movies in your mind, and you can pick them all up on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to check out my screenplay books that I wrote a film called All About Marilyn, about the struggles of black actresses in Hollywood, or my TV show All About Nikki's first season, you can check out those screenplay books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to check out my first full comic to see how I write comic books, you can pick up John Haynes at Death's Door on Lulu.com. And you can also find my other comic, Esteem No Good Deed, on Kindle for just 99 cents. And if you want to see me talk more about screenwriting and the entertainment industry, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers. John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Way in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.